Hi everyone, I'm back with Linda G to talk about what might be going on in this crazy world of ours. And I'd said to her that a couple of things came to me as insights around the cycles that we're in. And so the key thing, there are two people that come to mind, or well, actually now three, because the third one came today. So there are three separate people. One is obviously the man on the throne, the orange maniac, is always part of this. And it was because I was looking at his cycles, and I said it in videos quite a few times, how, the whole March, April period was going to be really turbulent and he was going to do all kinds of crazy things, which he did. This thing with the tariffs, he's never going to live that down. It's just not possible. He just isn't smart enough to understand there's no possible way to make it work because that's how economics work, and that's just life, right? So but then there is this other pattern around. You can see health pressures there for sure in his chart. They're constantly around him. And then you get people get impatient and they'll say, well, yeah, you keep saying that, but look at him, he still goes to parties and makes more money and he's fine. I mean, why do you say things are terrible? No, he's fine. Well, one answer to that is that you can see a person sometimes when a person is under troublesome health uh, aspects, they can be declining right in front of your eyes. And, who knows when, if and when. It's a little bit like being in a boxing match and you're being punched and you haven't gone down yet. So that's not the point. The point is the aspects are there. But then I had this line where I was saying, okay, so now we're in the period where we're going towards summer, which means, in fact, yesterday, Saturn switched signs. Yesterday, it entered Aries, and it's going to be in Aries till basically September. So the whole summer, it's in Aries, right?
What is the home planet for Saturn? Capricorn, right?
Yeah, the home sign is Capricorn or Aquarius, but Capricorn is the pure place of the place that it rules. Which, by the way, that's right there. That's a clue to Trump's fate, if you like, because he clearly doesn't like Saturn in the cardinal signs. He certainly didn't like it in Capricorn. I mean, think back. He comes in 16, it's in Sagittarius, 17 Sagittarius, 18. Right at the beginning of 18, long before the midterms, the whole thing with Michael Cohen built up, and all of a sudden he was, they were doing. There was lots of news that was not favorable, and then the loss of the midterms, 2019 Saturn in Capricorn. Yeah, he brought in Bill Barr, but then he got himself impeached. I mean, things were 18 and 19 were not good years, and 20 was horrible because 20 was the pandemic, right? So he doesn't like Saturn and Capricorn at all. But that's how astrology works, that you look at his chart and you see it's because planets in the corners, like Capricorn, Aries, Libra, Cancer, he's not going to like those, right? So now we get Saturn in Aries, but I was computing it as, yeah, well, it's going into Aries, but it's just going a little bit in, like 2 degrees, just dips in and then comes back, right? And then next year in the spring, actually, no, like February, by February, mid-February, whatever, I think it's that, somewhere in there, goes back into Aries, then it stays there for 2 years, right? And that's the year when things get really complicated because then it goes in deeper and it starts to find these actual planets. And so it's more problematic. But I was looking at this going, well, it's going a little bit in. So then the way I expressed it was, okay, so in the summer, maybe not so bad. Then starting in September actually, then you get this period where the energy that he let loose with the tariffs really probably will come back to find them because it goes back to those degrees. And that's approximately what any economist would tell you, right? Like make a move like this, give it a few months and people will be totally clear that prices have gone up and whatever, right? But the summer, for some reason, I sometimes with the signs, you have to be careful because when you see planets flipping signs, it's not that, some people will say, well, I'm on the cusp. So this means I could be Libra, but I could be Scorpio, or I could be Virgo, but really I could be Libra, you know, this kind of thing. I don't really go with that so much. But what you do have to be careful with is if there's a planet hitting a planet super early or super late, it'll affect both, right? So then I suddenly realized, wait a second, his health thing is not going away. In fact, if anything, it's worse during the summer because this thing that is happening
This summer.
yeah, like right now, the period that we're in, there's no let up, right? This guy is vulnerable to a problem anytime. If anything, it's worse sooner rather than later. And then, but then there's the thing, if it's not now, it's later because it'll come back later too. There's no exit from any of this, right? So that continues without a doubt, right? It's just the truth of things. I mean, I'm experiencing it. I was telling you that I have a bit of a sore back. It's astrologically correlated because it's in my chart. I mean, you know, someone might say to me, well, if you're an astrologer, why can't you prevent these things? Well, I try to prevent most of them, but I can't catch them all. Like, you know, you make a tiny mistake and you, I did it again. And then you have to wait for the, you know, back to feel better, whatever, right? So that's one thing that I noticed that's pretty clear. The second thing is that RFK, so, you know, the health crank. I mean, this guy is a complete and total crank. I'm sorry, but if I had any doubt, I heard Malcolm Gladwell in his podcast just describe, you know, because the thing with a lot of this is that I'm trying to watch more, but there's so much out there about what people said to who, when, and you try to put it all together. And he was on Joe Rogan, and it was interesting that Malcolm Gladwell said, if you're on Joe Rogan, wait for around the 2-hour mark, because by then he's got the guests all loose, and that's when the truth comes out. You know, they'll suddenly go, boop, blurt, right?
Right.
So apparently at around the 2-hour mark of a 3-hour Joe Rogan slugfest, he said that the 1918 pandemic was not caused by a virus. It was caused by vaccines that people were given. There weren't even any vaccines. It had to be some kind of experimental vaccine that in some mysterious way spreads. And in other words, cranky, crazy stuff, because then you start thinking, this is the guy running, you know, the American health system at the moment, and he's all over the map. Take the measles, don't take them, blah, blah, blah. Then they start pulling away food inspectors and things like that, you know, where you start to worry. So on my channel, I've told people, be careful, you know, and keep watching the news in case you hear about something, and maybe, I don't know, go to reputable stores, but maybe you're not even safe there, because I've seen problems even at Costco. They try, you know, they're a big progressive company that tries to stay on top of things, but they've had problems with, sometimes they had to pull, you know, frozen blueberries off the shelves because they found.
Oh, yeah,
You have to be careful, right? And with RFK there, you know, a little, and then I noticed that in his chart, he's got this thing that, again, you got to look a little closer, because I usually will look, and I look to the main degrees, and this is where I had said next year, definitely next year, the Saturn finds him, and it would be amazing if he's going to have a problem next year for sure. The way
next
Saturn
year
is,
around what time?
Fall. It's about a year from now, because it'll take that long for Saturn to get deep in the sign. He's got his moon at 13 degrees, so you need it to get. Let's see. I'll just check here and I'll tell you. 13 degrees. That's yeah, June, July. Like basically for him, even May, June, July, August, because Saturn stations there, September, the whole middle of the year is not good. So probably there's something there that pops up that becomes a big problem. But this summer, it's also not good, because what happens is right now Saturn and Neptune are going in, and in the middle of the summer, roughly, they station at 2 degrees, and then they start retrograding. In that point where they station, they do a direct hit on one of his planets. And that kind of, it's not as big as next year's, but because of the station, it's pretty much as big. It becomes another problem. That means that it's pretty close. I mean, we're almost there. We're weeks away from something, which somebody might even say, well, Andre, that's not really a big news, because the way this guy talks and the way he behaves, nothing would surprise anybody, you know, based on some crazy thing that'll come out about him. But, you know, it's a dangerous area. And the third
He could
thing,
even be the cause of a lot of Americans dying or something.
yeah, that's
something
right.
he does could cause, and maybe people will say, enough, get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It's possible. I mean, normally I would say it should take longer and go to the bigger aspect, but there's definitely enough there for some pretty important trouble, right? And the third thing I was going to mention is that I kind of glimpsed today when I thought, huh, that's really strange that, the back to the orange guy, he that uses that, you know, truth anti-social, whatever the hell that is, where he tweets and retweets and all that.
Yeah.
And today he tweeted at Putin saying, he's changed, he's acting crazy, he's killing all these people, and he seems to be upset with him. But of course, then he also finished the screed by saying, and Zelensky, he should just keep his mouth shut and stop saying
Yeah.
things. But okay, the thing is, Saturn, this is the whole idea with Putin. Saturn in Aries is not good for Putin. It's not. Neither is Neptune in Aries, those two. The problem is that they don't fully get in there until next year. So if I'm advising Zelensky, I would say to him, look, you've got to find a way to get to next year. Just figure out a way to survive another year. And right now, Russia is pummeling, hitting hard.
Oh, big time.
Right. But the other
And
thing,
then why are all the bigwigs leaving, or is that just rumor? They said all the bigwigs in Russia are exiting out of Russia.
You mean like more than before?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that I don't know. I haven't been following the Russia thing that closely, other than knowing he's doing a lot of bombing, and also that they're really exhausting their economy. I mean, it's not an easy thing. It's turned out to be.
Well, also, everybody, France, Germany, everybody told Zelensky, you can bomb Moscow to your heart's consent. They're not saying that you're limited anymore. They went on all the news media and said Zelensky has full permission from us to bomb inside Russia.
Right. Well, and then the other thing is that even if I say next year, Saturn fully in Aries, Neptune fully in Aries, they start getting deeper. This, Putin's got a whole bunch of planets in Libra. That's not good. It's just not good at all. Becomes really problematic, including for his health as well, because that's in the houses where they are. But the other thing that's happening now, very soon, June 10th, I think, somewhere in there. June 10th. Yeah, June 10th. So June 10th, Jupiter leaves Gemini and goes into Cancer. So one of the reasons Trump has been just letting it rip with his corruption. I mean, he hasn't been doesn't care about anything, planes from Qatar, crypto parties, lying through his teeth. It's Jupiter on there. He thinks he's got
He can get away with it.
Yeah, but Jupiter can draw you in like that, but then you got to face the Saturn later, right? So Jupiter's going to leave. That means it leaves his sign, but Jupiter in Gemini is also very favorable to Putin because it's an air sign. So now going into Cancer, both of them, probably more even Putin than Trump, the overreach, the overextension, the overconfidence, which in war situations can be really dangerous when you make moves that you think will get you something and then they end up getting you the opposite, right? So it's entirely possible we'll start to see important shifts in that war, even in the summer now, because of the fact that these things have been shifting, right? So yeah, but what about, what's been all I know from recently, I heard you once say somewhere that you didn't think any of Trump's like initiatives, anything he tried probably wouldn't work, but I don't know much else about what you're saying. What has been your...
I'm telling, and I've been saying this even in his first term, Biden tried to keep it like he was a president, but he never was. He's a traitor and he's a scam artist. Everything that Trump has said or done, because I don't know if he'll still be alive to get these trials, but they will reverse, the United States will reverse everything. Did you see even the courts are going to try to get who takes care of them? They can call in the sheriffs, but the sheriffs or the marshals, but the marshals work for Trump. They want to switch that. They want to have the marshals working for the judicial system, so they have some way of stopping him.
Okay, so who said this? The court said?
It's in all the news.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, let me see, that would be the conflict, because if the Supreme Court issues a ruling and then it's not obeyed, they can't even now send the marshals, but then the
But
president
the marshals work for Trump. Yeah.
work for Trump. Yeah, exactly.
So
But
they want to switch that.
but isn't
Because
that,
also they said they're getting their lives threatened all the time. And they don't want that. They want protection. They want military or some sort of protection.
Hmm.
So
yeah, well, I wonder how that'll work though, because doesn't Congress have to pass the law for anything to be law?
yeah, Congress is getting ready to go anyway. Midterms, they're gone.
Yeah, but that's next year. We start.
Yeah, but okay. It'll come up. Actually, it's 2 years. It's 18 months for the voting, which it'll be blue, crystal blue. And then it'll be 2 months after that they get sworn in January.
You mean the new
Yeah.
the new Congress? Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, that okay. That's, to me, it's pretty clear when you look at the angle that Saturn makes late in 26. It's like a punch in the face to Trump. October, November, December. That is not. It's not a winner. It's a loser for sure. It's a bad.
Well, and also he wants respect, and that's the one thing he's going to be depleted of. People will be turning their nose up at him because he lies while he's breathing. He told all those cadets nobody joined the military while Biden was in office. And all of those cadets were there because Biden was in office. But you see, he lies while breathing. His press secretary just watched her lie again. They said, "Aren't you worried about the president putting us by his budget, putting us in a deficit?" And she said, "It's going to cost it. The American people will have $1.3 trillion of money saved." And I mean, if you could have flagged it with a red circle, you would have said lie. That's a total lie. It puts us in a huge, even more deficit. But it's like they don't hear a word you say.
Yeah. Well, but then that's the whole pattern is that sometimes if you want to bring about real change, when a society is all divided and screwed up by the way recent years have been, sometimes the only way is you got to see it right in front of your face. Really bad governance, utter stupidity, danger. Then maybe people realize, yeah, it's kind of like, if your toilet backs up, do you call a real plumber, like an expert plumber, or do you call some person off the street who just says they're a plumber? Oh yeah, I have some plumbing knowledge. No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't let them in the house.
And only I can fix it.
Yeah, exactly. So this has been the way that it's been moving, where nobody trusts the people that are the normal experts that deal with things. And
Well, look, I was just telling, I was on Sherry's show earlier, and we were talking about how, the Venezuelans came out with a big party for Trump. Oh, vote for Trump. And that little tiny Hispanic woman, Venezuelan woman, she's talking in the microphone. "I'm going to tell you, he's the best president. He's this, he's that." And he's behind her and he's doing this, and he kisses her on the back of her head. Yes, keep talking. And as soon as he got in there, what's he doing? He's making them pack their bags and get the hell out of Dodge. And they can't believe it. They're going on the news. "I can't believe it. I voted for him, and I can't believe it, what he's doing." Truck drivers can't believe it. Farmers can't believe it. It's hard to get, you want to feel sorry for them, but it's almost like that FAFO, F around and find out.
Yeah, no, and even if you think, okay, maybe, benefit of the doubt, all that stuff. Yeah, but after a while, people know, especially people that are on a tight budget, they'll know that their money is.
Oh, everybody, people are going to be losing their homes. People are losing their jobs.
Yeah.
He's trying to put this budget through to take away power from the Supreme Court, from judicial, and it's not going to hold water. I'm going to tell you that right now.
No, well, some things. I mean, the only thing is that probably they'll get through the tax cut, but that becomes a big sales pitch for elections, because because, you're taking money from people that have less money and giving it to people that have a lot of money. I was hearing numbers like the really, really rich are getting an extra $500,000, like they need that. They've got $1 billion and you give them a $500,000. It's so ridiculous. And then the people that are making just enough to live, they're losing hundreds to maybe like $1,000 a year. The last thing they need is that, because it puts them under so much pressure. So, yeah, and those things
And
are
in the
real.
meantime, they don't want to give the regular workers any kind of raise. They can just take the $7 an hour. And they don't want you to have any Medicaid or any help with your medical if you're poor.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing then, is that those are people. I mean, look, by the way, the other thing that these things, you see these patterns, they're so clear. Like, what tends to happen is that people only become aware of what's going on when it's right in front of them. Like, there's a group of, you and I are always looking because we're interested in, we do this all the time. So we'll be seeing all kinds of things. But there are many people, the only time they pay attention to, okay, who's running? Then they watch for a few weeks, and then they make a decision. And the problem is, those are often the people that end up deciding what happens, because there are two big camps on either side. And then there are a few that come in, and you can tell them a story. Whoever tells them the best story, and when it comes to the,
Oh, he was going to put money in their
oh,
pockets and
yeah, like, well, he said on day one, I'm going to lower the grocery prices. He talked
yeah.
about groceries endlessly, right? So, but those people are going to notice that that's not the case. And you remember in the last time around, in 2016, as soon as he entered, it turned out that year there was an election in, I think it was Virginia, right away. There was a problem with something that had to be, someone had vacated or something. So they did the governorship really early. And the Democrat won big, and Democrats kept winning and winning and winning all the way to the midterms. And this time around, it's the same thing. Either the Republicans won in a couple of places by way less than they were supposed to. They were supposed to win by 25 points, and they won by 10 or something. They dropped a lot. And then you saw Nebraska, New York, different places where there were supposed to be Republican wins. No, people voted for Democrats. And even though people say Democrats are very unpopular right now, not so unpopular they're not voting for
No,
them, because the other side is even more unpopular. And why? Because they're seeing, they're
what
seeing
they're
people-
doing.
Yeah, they're seeing what they're doing, and you can tell why do they say the consumer index is down? Because people are worried, because they don't know, what's going to come next.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that address that Youngkin,
No.
Governor Youngkin did for the students at the college or whatever? He's talking and 3/4 of the student body walked out. They have it on film. They just turned around and walked out.
Yeah, well, unsurprising. Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing I'm going to say from my vantage point, I know with him specifically, and this is more one of the things you do in astrology is you try to get confirmation across several charts, several ways to look at it. He doesn't like the cardinal planets. He doesn't like them. And the problem is, these aren't 2 weeks or 2 months. They're there. Saturn doesn't get out of Aries till 2028. It's going to be there a long time. And Neptune doesn't get out of Aries till 2038. So, and that's another one that for him, both of those are very problematic. Like the Neptune increases the lying and the delusion. But see, this is the other thing. When you're playing a game, you know how it's sort of like when you say to a person, it's so much easier to tell the truth. Because if you're lying, you got to keep track of your story and you got
Yeah.
to remember what you said. And then sooner or later, two things won't add up and someone will say, that doesn't make sense. Trump is like a lying machine. So the more this keeps accelerating, and when you put it together with results that people are seeing, the more they'll go, well, I think maybe people are correct. He's lying. And, you just need to peel off a section of his people, because many won't leave no matter what. They're like hardcore.
They're hardcore, even with nothing to eat, no roof over their head. They're hardcore.
They're hardcore. Yeah.
Somebody wrote a question. They said, I was listening to someone and they mentioned that Saturn in Aries was a time of great movement of people to different locations. Any validity to this?
Well, I mean, there can be some, but see, the thing is, you can go back to when Saturn was last in Aries, And so there you would go back to 96 in the spring, 97 and parts of 98. That's the last time it was there, 30 years ago. It's now replicating on around the full thing. And I'm not sure that you would find necessarily a whole ton of movement then. But curiously, that's the only block of time I found. And I went back to 1900, and I noticed that because the US is a Cancer country, so they're in that 4 sign thing, like Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, Libra. So then what I noticed is every time Saturn is cardinal in one of those 4 corners, except for those Clinton years, that's the one exception. The only thing I can think of is if you want to count it as, oh, it was bad because they caught him with, Monica Lewinsky. But I mean, that, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think that's bad, fine. But I don't think that was really a government crisis at all. The other periods, though, all of them consistently show the country struggles more. Like even recently, if we look back to 2003 to 2005, that was the Iraq War. Things got kind of nasty in there. Then in 2010, 2011, 12, up to the fall of 12, that was that we were recovering from that terrible, crash. So the country
know.
was really down. And then 20, like 18, 19, 20, that's COVID. I mean, things got rough, the country suffered. So now we're in this zone where some kind of contraction is likely to happen. But the ironic thing is he's causing the contraction. He's doing
Yeah.
it. He got in there and went, I'm going to contract the country. And you know why? Because he made his move under Saturn, which is the contracting planet. He decided, I'm going to impose these rules, Saturn, and it makes things narrower, but now there's less of something. Meanwhile, in the back, he's accepting jets and cryptocurrency. That's the Jupiter. That's the expanding force. But that's going to leave, right? That's going to now move into the next sign. So it's changing. It's changing, and now we just got to track. I'll get a lot of information. For example, for sure, around not even midsummer, like around a little after the solstice, like around Independence Day. By then, the planets are starting to really get to these places where you'll probably see, stuff happening that is important, both with him, RFK, right? Because they're moving into pressure spots. That's the logic as I see it.
How about our President Biden with that recent diagnosis? Did you see that in his chart?
Well, the problem is that Biden has had, I mean, in his chart, a health aspect since 2023. Like when you get to, you remember in 23, when AI first came out, oh, there's AI, and everybody thought, plus it was when they caught, what was that liar's name? George Santos. So because that Pluto there was affecting him, and so he gets caught in that whole scandal. Well, Pluto goes just a little bit into Aquarius. That's hitting Biden's moon in the health house. So probably, if I had to guess, because a lot of it now, we didn't really know how bad it might have been, he probably started to decline pretty hard from there in his health. And the problem is it's still there. It hasn't gone away. So, it's not good. Like whenever astrology is that way, when you have an angle happen in your chart, even if there's health potential, right? For example, depending on age, if that same angle, like with Saturn every 30 years, right? Saturn goes through some place, health could be you just don't feel well, or maybe you get the flu, or maybe you get a minor injury. It doesn't mean you're going to get deathly sick. That is more likely to happen. I mean, he's 82 now, right? So, and it's in a way, the disease he has is a lot of men get this disease at that age, so it's got that quality, unfortunately. And so
Yeah.
the point is, there's still a ways to go, right? And you never want to hear that when you hear that someone has a dangerous diagnosis, because you hope that it'll kind of.
But he'll get the best medical care there
Oh,
is.
yeah, no, for sure, yeah. But there's also the fact that when you're getting care for something that complicated, it usually makes you feel worse, before you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've known people who went on chemotherapy and then had to stop because they felt worse than,
Yeah. If you recall, and a lot of people recalled, if Joe Biden was going to win if he had won the presidency. I only saw him serving 2 years. Not because he was going to die. It could be because he was sick or something, is what I got. And that sure enough was true.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
he didn't win.
Yeah, and it's
And you
there.
know, he's regretting that he didn't run.
I mean,
But I don't know if he would have won even if he ran. I don't know.
well, see, the problem with that, those are the famous questions where you can spend hours doing coulda, woulda, shoulda. Well, what if this?
Yeah.
What if that? You can't do it that way. It just didn't happen that way. So that was the fatedness of the situation, and it's where it's ended up. And you know, if a person says, "Well, okay, great, so now we're stuck with this, you know, with this maniac, this criminal," and you know, people are saying things like, Trump is a man of destiny. Yeah, but you know what? So was Napoleon and so was Hitler. You know, you can be a man of destiny. That doesn't mean don't for a minute think you're a man of destiny. Yeah, but things end where they end, right?
Right.
And my sense is actually that probably what's happening here is that in order to get beyond this virus, this MAGA thing, you got to see it up close. You got to really, because, you know, back in 2018, 19, this is what I heard someone say, which made a lot of sense. Except for COVID, which he did really poorly, and I think that's what cost him the election, by the way. That cost him in big time. But the economy was pretty good. You know, it was Obama's economy. He didn't really do, I mean, he put in a tax cut, whatever. The economy was fine. So then people in their mind, well, yeah, okay, he, COVID and plus January 6th, but when he was there, we had a good economy. And with Biden, prices went up. And they, you know, thought that this was the way to
People
judge.
overcharged. People were gouging us,
Yeah, well,
making up fake numbers for overcharging for items that should have been the same. They even admitted it on the news when they did the research. There was price gouging.
well, that and don't forget that when you get a period where there's no economic activity and then you pump a lot of money into the system, you're going to create some inflation automatically because you have too much money and not enough goods. People raise the prices. That's basic. I remember in economics when I took that course in university, they would explain it's all supply and demand. If you have
Right.
something to sell and then suddenly there's more of it, then the price will tend to go down when there's a, you know, or in terms of money, there's too much money available. So then it causes things to move up, right?
So Robin said, and I read this yesterday actually. Can you read on why the 10 Russian government's jets flew officials from Moscow to the east of the rural Ural Mountains yesterday, May 25th? I believe there's a bunker there. Are they expecting something or did something happen? I think they're expecting something. I think they knew that the UK and France and everybody was going to pull the cord and say, bomb to your heart's content. That's what I'm feeling.
So you're
I
feeling
could
that.
be wrong.
So you're feeling that that Ukraine is gonna get more aggressive?
Oh, hell yeah. I feel it. They're already bombing right now, big time.
Well, I did hear
They're
that.
not gonna hit, they're not gonna hit what do you call those tenements like Russia does. They just kill the children and the women because that's what they're all about. But I see him really getting targets, and I see a lot of intel around Zelensky helping him point to the map.
Huh. Well, there is news that Ukraine during the war has really developed their military power. Like, you know, they're not just sitting there taking blows and losing. They're getting help from not so much from the US anymore, but still from
They
Europe.
used to get help from the US.
They used to, yeah. But in the meantime, they've developed new technologies that they're using, especially around drones and I think maybe reconnaissance stuff. I forget what it was, but that they've really developed their war machine in a pretty
Yeah.
good way. And you know, the longer it goes, of course, the problem is that people die. Though that's the horrible thing, you know, because when you're fighting, this is for real. We're talking about it like it's a video game, and it's not. You know.
By the way, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better?
Compared to when?
You were sick for a while.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. That was like a cold for about
A lot of people are getting that cold, and it's really kicking people's butts.
Yeah, but for me,
Someone asked this question. It's not an astrological question, but will Trump pardon Maxwell? And I'm going to tell you, I feel no. But it's not that he doesn't want to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell.
oh,
Yeah. I feel she won't take his pardon because she fears being out in the open,
oh,
that she'll get snubbed. Yeah.
you mean he'll want a partner? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Someone asked, do you think Trump will pardon her? I think he would have already pardoned her, number one.
What
But she won't sign an agreement with him. There's something, and she wouldn't let Bill Barr come into the jail and see her. Remember? Because she knows Bill Barr was part of the organization that had Epstein snuffed.
I don't even know. What was her last name?
Giselle Maxwell.
Oh, Maxwell.
Maxwell. Well.
I don't know if I have her chart anywhere. Yeah. I know I have it around somewhere, but I know she's, I'm pretty sure she had a lot of Capricorn in her chart, and that's not good. No, with the Saturn in terms of getting breaks.
Yeah.
Unlike,
and I think she's cautious.
yeah.
And she can be so manipulative because Capricorns, when they're connected to someone, they'll drop their own happiness for the sake of that person.
You think?
I've seen a lot of female Capricorn women do that. End up with someone and they change, they become the different person.
Interesting.
Your wife, for instance.
Wait, I'm the Capricorn.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, that's right.
So you're
She's not the Capricorn.
You're getting it backward.
Yes. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, tell you one thing. Right now, the people that are feeling the bulk of the astrology, well, you have to look at everything. I mean, I'm talking now about Saturn and Neptune, though, these two that are early Aries.
Yeah.
It's affecting people that are born near the solstices and the equinoxes. If you're born just before the solstice or just after, like those days in there, that's where Saturn and Neptune are putting.
Give me a date. What month?
Okay, like it would be June. Let's start from beginning of the year would be March, March 19, 20, 21, 22, in that range. That's the beginning of Aries, end of Pisces. Then you go to June 19, 20, 21, 22.
Okay.
That's, maybe a day before that too, possibly, but those four are the most. Then you go to September around 19, 20, 21, 22, where again, it's shifting into early Libra. And then December 19, 20, 21, 22. Those people there are getting the pressure. So the Neptune confuses it. It's the kind of energy that you kind of go, I don't know what to do. What should I do next? And then Saturn comes in and brings in problems, challenges. But if you are born during those periods, just know that it is a really important thing and you will get something out of it. It's worth seeing it through, but you got to be patient enough to know the summer is like this. And then next year you get another little pass in the sort of the pre-spring period. And then finally it moves through, right? And then what I tend to notice is that once you lock in, which happens now, you're kind of in that zone until next spring. So it's the 8 months where you're sorting through whatever it is. But in the end, Saturn is very useful, even though almost no one likes the feeling. It's the planet that will actually get you to do something. So you know this yourself from your own life. The planet that gave you the most trouble was the planet that helped you to get through to the next level, right?
So I'm September 10th. I should be okay.
Yeah, that's not you for now. No, you're safe. I'll let you know.
Well, enough about you. Let's talk about me. But anyway, so this Sunset said, thank you for doing a show. I always look forward to you folks collaborating. My astrology question is, does it make a difference that not one state in the United States is in the sun sign of Aries? Would it have helped balance us in any way, political or otherwise? Thank you. I read a book on this years ago.
I don't, to be honest, I don't know how you assign. I'm not aware of a system that I would even make any sense to me to say. I mean, there might be, but I never find like I'll find something in Florida, but then the next day I got nothing. And then the idea that you can assign and say Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Okay, here's the next problem. There are 50 states. That means that you need to have, you could have what, 4 states are the same sign? Or did the
Yeah.
person say, I mean, I don't understand that. I can research it and look
She's
it up.
just
But,
saying not one state, I guess, was birthed in the sign of Aries.
oh, birthed.
You know what I mean? California became California, not in Aries. There's no state that came up being in Aries.
Right. But the thing is, the next question is, are there states that were birthed in Cancer, Capricorn, or Libra? Because then the Saturn will be challenging those states now. And as far as the question, does that mean anything? I would say probably not. The one chart that I do track is the American chart. That chart vibrates a lot. I keep seeing patterns, that repeat in strange ways. But it's a broader thing. Like one of the things is we are still under Uranus energy because the American moon is late in Aquarius. So it's getting
Yeah.
Uranus pressure, and that doesn't end until like the middle of next year. And that's where, strange things can happen. Uranus is a lightning bolt. Some crazy thing happens, that is unexpected.
Yeah.
And that definitely from here to late spring of 2026, it's in play all the time. Always.
Well, I'll tell you that the fact that Trump said that about Putin, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. He's changed. I don't know what the hell he's doing. Why would he want to kill innocent people? Well, he loves to kill innocent people. But anyway, that conflict that's coming up, if it was up to Putin, he'd probably have Trump snuffed.
Yeah, but how is Putin going to do that?
He's not. But I'm just saying, he energetically, if he's mad at the United States, that means, he gets even sometimes. But he's going to go before he has a chance to get even.
Who, Putin?
Putin.
Yeah, well, Putin, I mean, this is the thing, right? That Putin, when you see a person in this kind of situation, which I still say is pretty dicey, when you have a country that is as weak economically as they are, so they're stretching. He keeps sending young men to their death constantly, some prisoners too, but whatever. He's causing a lot of death. And then you see, that's the problem in a way. People ask sometimes, what does it mean to have a stellium, group of planets? What that means is that sometimes life will be really good to you and sometimes it'll be really bad to you.
Yeah.
Because when it's really good, it's because something good goes through there. Oh, great. Look, everything is great. Then planet like Saturn, no, that's much harder. It opposes, right? In fact, think about this, right? Putin suffered greatly during the pandemic as well. He became paranoid and he had that long table. That's because it was in Capricorn, which is another hard sign for him as well, right? So that was how he experienced that. This is much worse because now it's in his health houses. And so that's why I'm saying for Zelensky, the key is wait this out. You have to figure out a way to stay in the fight till next year and let things unfold.
Yeah.
They can. And yeah, you're totally right because, by the way, that's another thing that's happening with Biden too. Whenever you see, because I mentioned the one thing that originated in 23, that was one thing, right? 23, he had this thing that started then and still happening today because the movement of that planet is very slow, Pluto. But there's this other one that correlates with now really specifically. It's doing a direct hit into his 12th. In that way, Biden is like Putin. They both have a lot of planets in the 12th, right? That's, by the way, that's where your sun is too, right? That's why you're such a dictator, person. No, seriously, but like, okay, so Biden is seeing it. I mean, it's in black. It's a direct hit. That's the hospital house, which is why you were a nurse, for example, for a while, right? But it's good to be a nurse in the hospital. It's not good to be in the hospital. Right?
Yeah.
Understand that logic, right? So the point is, he's experiencing that now. And for Biden, at minimum, his first level of finding some safety would mean get to about the middle of next year. You know, which
Okay.
that's like almost a whole year. You know, it's really like literally a year in the middle of a diagnosis. Well, Putin, he's got all these planets, and then all of them are getting action in the health. That's the health area. That his thing. See, the hospital house, so to speak. This is where astrology can be very tricky because you assign to it multiple meanings. Anything hospital is there, but also anything prison or anything like CIA, KGB. This guy's an ex-KGB. When you're doing secret work in the back, that's where you put it. That's why his planets are all there, right? Now he's in charge, but now it's manifesting as health, probably, almost certainly. We already heard some things. And so, or let's say it doesn't manifest as health. Let's say that it just shows up. It's just hard. When Saturn opposes you, you don't win, you lose. You get set
Oh,
back,
yeah.
you get pushed
Oh,
back,
yeah.
you get told, you know. I mean, the only other thing that I can point to, I mean, most people would tell you, probably even the MAGA people, what Trump did under his Saturn was just the dumbest move. I bet you he realizes himself that he probably wouldn't do it if he had a chance to. But I don't know, because maybe he's so mentally ill, you know. He's now the way
How
he's,
old is Putin now, by the way?
I think he's late 60s, maybe.
Oh, I thought he's not as old as Trump.
No, I think he's born in, or no, I would say he's probably getting, maybe he's 70 already. Let me check. See if I know I have his chart somewhere. Here he is. Okay, 52. Yeah, he's 70. He's going to turn 73 this year. So that's the thing. To me, when you get into your 70s, any health concerns are more alarming. Let's just say that, right?
Yeah.
If there's any truth to it. And then even, you know, why do you think insurance companies, you know, they put you on a graph, and if they see you at 78, 79, they immediately say, hold on.
Yeah.
We need to take another
Although
look.
my son said there's been studies that people who live to be in their 70s, like me, can have a better opportunity to live to be in their 80s, actually.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. There's a tremendous amount of variance. Like all this stuff, it'd be great if you could put everything in a box. You just go with what you're hearing. And I mean, look at a guy like Trump, right? He's one of the laziest people I've ever met in my life. He just wants to fart around, play golf, you know, brag to his friends and all that. But now he's got to keep his mind on what's going on. He has to, because for one thing, he gets mad. You know, look what they said about me. I got to go after that guy. This is how you diminish your life. You know, if
Yeah.
your brain is working this way, and you will get setbacks. You'll suddenly hear, oh, the court said no, you got to bring him back. Okay, how do we reply? It's stressful, right? So, and then if you start hearing him missing words, and you know, you start to realize, okay, something's happening there that
Yeah.
telling you there's a decline, right? And then you
Yeah.
look at the astrology to see if there's a pattern, and the pattern is definitely there.
Yeah. He was talking to those young cadets, and he was talking about what was it? He was going off the trophy wives and I don't know what all.
Yeah, I mean, you know how people now, one of the lines that you hear people bring up is that in the previous administration, there were lots of people around them to stop him from doing things. And that is better for the country because there were crazy ideas that he had. And now there aren't. But in a way, in terms of getting rid of this guy, it is better to let him do things, even though it's dangerous, you know, because when he does things, I mean, are you surprised that this guy bankrupted businesses? I'm not. It's pretty
No.
obvious. I mean,
And they're saying the United States is going to be his seventh one.
no, I mean, like, you know, if you called in, to me, if you're going to do tariffs, you know what I would do? I would call in the best math person I could find. And I would say to them, bring your best computer. And I would say, okay, if I did this, run me some numbers. Just tell me different scenarios, which, by the way, he could put that in an AI engine and ask, and it'll tell him, if you do this.
People are trying to tell him, he won't listen.
No, he's just convinced in his mind, right? And yeah, 50%. Basically, when you won't be able to buy anything from Europe, and Europe won't buy anything from here, but that causes losses of jobs because a lot of people are involved in import and export. So it's a loss
Yeah.
all around, right?
So listen, we're pushing an hour. I just want to tell you a little. I've been watching, I told my people on Sherry's show, I've been watching World War II, Ken Burns' show that he did for PBS years ago. And it's quite intense. And I'm very happy I watched it. I probably watched it back then, but I forgot about it. But if you can have any sense of humor in the middle of all this tragedy, I mean, in 1933, there was 9 billion or 9 million. Was it billion or million Jews?
No, it has to be million. It can't be. It can't.
Million. Okay, so there was
Oh,
9 million
That was
Jews.
the whole world.
And then when this thing happened, after all that, I think they had 2 million left.
Oh, I know.
But this guy, he said, and my dad talked about it, because back in that day when they hit Pearl Harbor, you messing with the wrong people, because they went cray-cray. All these people wanted to join in. All these people wanted to join up into the service. And excuse what I'm saying, you guys, but this is how they talked in those days. They were out to get the Japs. So they're standing in line. They were 18 years old. And a Marine from across the street runs over to them. And he says, "You guys want to kill some Japs?" They said, "Yeah, man." He said, "Well, come over and sign up with the Marines. That's all we do." "Nah, well, we're kind of in line right now for the Navy." He said, "The Navy ain't going to take you. Your parents are married."
That's funny.
And then this officer talked about, he was a pilot. He said he used to go to the officers club someplace. He said behind the bar, there was a huge bra, a bra of a huge woman, big old bra. And it was on a plank and it was huge and it was up on top of the bar. And on the bottom of it, it said, "Remember Pearl Harbor."
Yeah.
I busted out laughing, even with all the sadness. They had to have some sort of sanity or something to laugh at. And I'll tell you, some of the stuff they were saying, the nicknames they would give each other was hysterical.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was a tough time though. That period.
Yeah, they called this one guy Pine Box because they knew he was going to be dead.
Yeah.
Because the way he fought, he didn't give a shit. So
Yeah. No, and that's the thing now. I think we should be thankful so far, at least. I mean, in Ukraine, there's a hot war, and there are hot wars, and there's always a hot war somewhere. But the U.S., for now, at least, isn't involved in anything. And
yeah, fortunately, I don't think this president would get himself involved in a war. I really don't. He's already upset that Putin keeps killing people. He doesn't want that. That's what he says. But I will tell you, when the Russians went into Poland and found the camps, they told the Americans in the whole world what was happening in these camps, about all the thousands of dead. And it was terrible about them burning people in ovens. And the American and British press was told to stifle, because they didn't believe the Russians. They thought they were lying. And boy, did they find out. And a lot of these military guys, I don't know if they're alive now, that were talking about it, that went into these camps, they were grown men sobbing, talking about it. And it's 50, 60 years later, and it still upset them about. And they said they were so hungry, the ones that could still walk, and they gave them their rations thinking they were helping them. And about 200 of them died because it was too rich for their body.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's and the Russians, I know there's the story that they killed a lot of Poles and then they just hid it. They murdered thousands and thousands and buried them in a forest, and then they just write the history as though, no, we didn't do that. So yeah,
Well, the Germans did too.
yeah, no, it's pretty much all around. I mean, you can see examples of this over and over in politics. You get a lot of that, but you also have to, in the end, make a decision, the lesser of two evils, because if you say everything is bad, well, you got to make a choice here. I mean,
Well, Edgar Casey talks about this, and mankind has always been the type. Even I was telling people, my tribe, They weren't all peace, love, and dove. My Comanche natives were the pimps. They'd kidnap your sister and charge you a ransom to get her back because that's how they made their money.
Mhm.
And so, and the Sioux natives, who were one of the meanest, they've always said the Sioux was the meanest. I mean, they fought each other all the time. And then these white men come along and then they have a purpose. You know what I'm saying? But man always seems to have some reason to fight.
Oh yeah, no, that's that there's a book by this guy Diamond who says he does these kind of anthropological studies, and he says it's basically guns, germs, and steel. It's like you live at the tip of the sword, or whoever has the biggest gun, or whoever's manipulating, like what the Spaniards did when they went to the Americas and they infected the population. But that's where it gets weird because they thought too, they since the religion where it can totally brainwash you, where they thought they were doing the Lord's work because
Oh yeah, they always go behind the cross.
yeah, you kind of go, well, okay, I'm coming, representing Jesus. And I mean, you wonder, like, you think Jesus would have approved of you putting a blanket there with, with a diseased? I mean, I think Jesus would have said, you can't do that. You got to find a different way. But
Oh, I mean that the Trump administration, is it Texas or somebody? They're all for it, or they're making you post the 10 Commandments in the school.
yeah, well, I mean, it's funny
And
that
they don't follow most of those
yeah, they don't follow
commandments.
most of them. Yeah, that's the whole thing is, I mean, you can post the commandments, but if you don't follow them, then I mean, what's the point? Exactly. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, my friend.
All right, that was good. Let's talk again soon. Because I think I'm guessing that this next month is gonna get, if not this next month, it could be the next one. But we're kind of in the zone now where we're
We're
gonna,
almost in June.
yeah. And whenever in astrology, whenever you get big planets shifting, you start seeing shifting energies, shifting patterns, and some take a little longer to kick in because it's gotta get deeper in the sign. But some you see like pretty much right away. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll say goodbye to everyone for now. Enjoy the rest of Memorial Day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.